Often when we read about Buddhism, as it comes from a translation, the word dukkha translates as suffering. So often in these books we read the word suffering over and over again, and this word becomes a theoretical concept that we can agree with on an intellectual level, but on the lived experience we don't say we're suffering. We might say we're worrying about something, but obviously worrying is a form of suffering. I thought I'd share my thoughts on worrying. Often worrying can be addictive, because when we care about something that's not going our way, say the actions of politicians aren't the way we like, we want more action to be done in this direction or less action to be done in that action, or we worry if we've left the hob on, or we can worry about all sorts of things, and we can often equate worrying about something with caring about something, and if we stop worrying or having these negative emotions, it means we no longer care about this thing. We can encounter very tragic events in our life, or we can hear, or they can happen to other people, and we feel that if we stop worrying or grieving or some any sort of word that we attach to this suffering, we're thinking that if we stop, then we stop caring. If I stop thinking about this bad event, then I no longer care about this person that bad event happened to, or any one of a number of things. If I stop worrying about leaving the oven on, I'm going to burn down the house, and I'm not advocating for recklessness, but we can check the oven, and we can sit and be sad, and we can do all of those things. But it's when it crosses the line into addiction, when we're habitually worrying because that's what we're used to. It's the devil that we know, that we're living with, and that perpetual worry, we rationalise it as caring, and we can care deeply and not worry. We can care deeply, we can read, we can educate ourselves, we can act, but the worrying is the what if, and there's enough problems in the world to not deal with the what if. We can deal with the what is, and that's going to keep us more than occupied. But at least if we can only reduce our thinking to the things that we can control and the things that we can influence, and stop this worrying, because worrying doesn't make us a kind person, it doesn't make us a happy person, it doesn't make us a good person, it makes us a worrying person. Caring makes us a caring person. Acting and caring I use as a verb. We can say we care, but when care is applied as a verb, what are we actually caring about? What are we actually doing? And that's what we should be focusing on our actions, rather than circular thinking about things that we can't change. So, and it's hard, and I'm speaking from a perspective where I worry, and I notice that I'm reluctant to stop worrying, because I often think that if I stop worrying, I stop caring until I have to remind myself. And even though I've learnt that lesson, I have to repeatedly learn that lesson. And luckily for me, I'm having to learn that lesson less frequently than I used to. But when we find these things out, we first understand it on an intellectual level, and then we understand it on a heart level, and it's a big breakthrough, and then we forget, and then we remind ourselves, and with each iteration of reminding ourselves, it becomes these habit patterns become less frequent and less controlling over our lives. So it's not like an on-off switch that we can just say, right, I'm not going to care anymore, but we can first understand it on an intellectual level, and then we can keep teaching ourselves this intellectual lesson every time we do it in everyday life, on the emotional level. So that's all I wanted to say. It's quite a simple concept that's almost impossible for us to live by consistently. I certainly struggle to live by it consistently, and I'm reminding myself that it's okay to not worry. It's okay to let go of grief, and it doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me less caring. So that's my thoughts for today. Thank you for listening, and really grateful for people turning up in these inclement conditions. I appreciate it. Thank you.